I want to start by really thanking all of you for coming. I want to especially thank the students that I see who have prioritized coming this morning. I also want to begin with a thank you to Captain Collins and his team and the Warwick Police for their service on Monday. They did an outstanding job of responding to the situation. I think we all know, if you were here at the campus, emergency situations are tense. I'm very proud of how this community responded to the notification from the college police. People took the announcement seriously, followed directions, and stayed calm. We know we have learned from the experience, and a big part of today is to gather your feedback so that we can improve. This discussion today is part of an ongoing conversation we are having at our college. We take the safety of every single person who works, teaches, attends classes, or visits our college seriously. And I'd like to begin by recapping what we've done to date. Working closely with Rhode Island's Emergency Management Agency and Director Gaynor, we finalized our emergency management plan. We continue to communicate regularly with that agency. Last October, we held safety briefings on all 4 campuses. Then in November, we hosted an active shooter training right here in Warwick. The senior team, campus police, and Warwick police participated in a tabletop exercise on an active shooter, and we were trained in the Federal Emergency Management Agency's incident management model. Let me now outline why we're here today. First, to get feedback about your experience of Monday. What worked, what didn't, what are your concerns, and what are your questions? Today we're going to talk about Monday's incident, explain how college and local police respond to situations like the report that was made on Monday, and based on your feedback, outline our plans to improve upon our work in emergency communication and preparedness. Here's what we hope to accomplish today. Define emergency language so that we better understand how to respond. 2, update you on training and initiatives to positively impact the safety of our college. And 3, engage in a conversation about how we can better prepare for emergencies, large and small, at our campuses. Please ask questions. With me today are Alix Ogden. She will speak about facilities, emergency notifications, and efforts our college is taking moving forward to improve our preparedness and communication, and Captain Sean Collins, who will speak about Monday and how to engage in emergency preparedness training, and will take your questions. Before I turn it over to Alix, I do want to thank Captain Collins and his team one more time, and the Warwick Police for their leadership and for their service. The goal of today is to gather your feedback and incorporate it into our plan for ongoing improvement and in training. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alix.
Thank you and good morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So I'm going to go through a few issues that were identified following the incident on Monday, and I'll just say that this is just a start, and really putting it out there to hear your feedback about the issues that I raise and anything else of your that's of concern to you. I will say it's kind of a lot of information. If we could hold questions until Captain Collins is done speaking, and then people can just come on up to the microphone. Thank you. So we've learned a lot from Monday. There's no doubt about that, and we want to keep learning from you. So thank you for your very immediate feedback about communication, and we know that we need to do a better job with it. So we heard there was confusion about the communication that recommended sheltering in place and move to a locked room. We heard that was confusing. So we're going to work to standardize our communications and are looking for your feedback. So what I'm going to outline is supposed to cover any kind of incident where we're concerned that there's a threat to safety. So we'll use rave announcements in text to do that. So you may receive a rave announcement of an incident and direction to take protective action, and the announcement will tell you what to do. So the announcement might say, we have had a chemical spill in the lab area on the first floor of campus. Please avoid the area and call physical plant if you smell a strange odor in your workspace. If a rave report asks you to shelter in place, That means find a protective space and move away from the windows. If you can lock your office or classroom door, you should lock it. This is most likely to be used, as the police are determining if there's a threat and the nature of the threat. If there is a lockdown, this means that there's an imminent and active threat on campus, and college police will lock down using our centralized system. So 3 different kinds of messages, and we're very interested in your feedback if that brings clarity. In the next week, please look for a communication from college police that will contain a video from the active shooter training that we held in the fall. And it will train you on the best practices should there be an active shooter situation on campus. We will be sending out this video at the beginning of each semester as a reminder and to train those who are new to the college. We also heard questions about our locking system. The system that we have in place locks down Knight, Liston, and Flanagan campuses all at the same time. We've asked our vendor to set up a module so that we can lock down individual campuses. We know that we need the flexibility, but I want to assure everyone that had college police determined that we needed to lock down this campus on Monday, we would have done so regardless of the impact to the other campuses. We also heard there were problems with the rave reports, that not everyone who registered for rave received the reports on Monday. If you have registered for rave, you should have been provided those texts, and so the system did not work properly. On Tuesday, our marketing team met with IT, and we believe that we've identified both the problem and the solution. We need to be sure that once you provide your cell number to the college, it will be in rave. Once we have that solution in place, we will send out a rave test, and we will test it every semester. We will only use rave tests in an emergency, or when, as we did on Tuesday, we need to contact you in a rapid manner. To get emails out to our entire community actually takes too much time if there is the potential of an emergency. We're looking to upgrade our rave system with a more comprehensive system. We are moving forward with upgrading our emergency alert system to something that's called Alertus. The Alertus system will increase our communication channels, including taking over college computers, kiosks, including the big TV above us, office and classroom phones. It will provide intercoms and an active shooter button at dispatch for all campuses. So with that, that's some of the actions and things that are in progress, and I'll turn it over to Captain Collins now.
Good morning. Thank everyone for being here. I would like to add a few other improvements that we make. Can everyone hear me? Okay. We've just completed the installation of a new communication system, and we look forward to installing a one emergency number for all 4 campuses. That's in progress. The new radio system is up and working extremely well. We can talk to all 4 campuses at the same time. We have rolled out a number of policies and procedures and are well on the way as far as accreditation. We've implemented non-lethal, less lethal equipment to our officers. Everyone's equipped with pepper spray. We're moving on to batons. And we just recently completed some training in Newport with the Newport Police Department. So we have been since last year.
We need it closer or you louder?
We have been since last year embarking on a robust emergency management program, which involves a multifaceted system, training, equipment, new technologies, as Alix was just talking about. So we have a lot in the works, a lot underway. We know that there's room for improvement. As for Monday, I want to thank the community at large for the response. The first consideration for anyone, particularly in my position, in any emergency is life safety. It's overwhelming responses to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So while the episode was unfolding, we were trying to determine exactly what we were working on. We determined that there was no imminent threat to the community. However, we wanted to notify people of a possibility. We had Warwick respond and in a rapid fashion to make sure that your safety was maintained. we understand that, as Alix was saying, that when the communication went out, there was some confusion. We want to get to a point where when a message goes out that there is, sorry, I keep backing off the microphone. It's an awkward position. When a message goes out that you are confident you know what to do. That's the ideal. So that requires training, communication, and it needs to be sustained over time. So, having said that, I will open up for questions. Lex?
So with the changes made and the new improvements that are to come, obviously you'd want to serve everyone at the college, faculty and students alike, administration as well. Now, just I'm curious as to how, if to any degree, the students would be involved. You know, it seems to me that if you want to adjust the program and fix maybe some problems that were had during this specific incident, you'd want to speak to the people that experience those problems. So now, for this meeting in particular, for example, notification didn't go out to the students in order to get them involved. I myself found out just by chance through a conversation with a professor, or almost accidentally. So my question is, to what degree, if any, will the students be involved in the improvement of this process?
I'm always available. I'd be glad to come to student government meetings, and if you want to have a representative meet with me regularly, I'd be glad to do that. But as we roll out communications, I don't know why there's some bifurcation in the email process, or, I mean, there's a number of things we can do, and I'm open to suggestions as getting input from the students. Do you have any particular concerns that were raised, or?
No, in general, I just wanted to make sure that everyone this is going to affect would be involved in the process.
Yeah. So Lex, thank you, and I see Charles here as well. I think it's going to be important that you two put your heads together with your team, come up with a proposal for how we bring students together, and we will absolutely meet with you. And so I think being very deliberate about that and scheduling it, probably multiple sessions so that we can involve as many students as possible. So absolutely, please work with Captain Collins' team to make that happen, and we can do that today.
Okay. And I also have a second question, if I may. There's actually several students in the music department wanted me to bring this forward. They were concerned because when it comes to getting any kind of a signal down there, it's pretty much a dead zone, and a lot of them didn't receive the initial alert. This new program that you had spoken of would involve kind of taking over the classroom computers and getting all that. Would that satisfy that need where they're concerned?
The idea is to reach as many people as possible. There will always be dead zones, people's cell phones that aren't charged. There will always be some, but we're hoping that, in addition to everything else we use, we'll be able to reach everybody. We also like the fact that, like, I talked to people after the incident, and some people had concerns, some people had great successes, right? So I don't know if my friend from the EMT program is here. It's okay to reach out, right? So if you know you're good, you're in a secure area, and you look out, as this person did and saw 25 students standing outside, hey, everyone come in, let's go, come on in, shut the door, right? So they had gotten the word, but they were unsure of what to do. So it's as a community, let's help each other. Some people will never react as well as others. Some people may not have gotten the word, so take care of yourself, of course, but as you are in the process of that, if you can reach out and say, hey, did you get that rave? You know, come with me,
Oh, yeah.
or let's go into this room or something.
I understand that situation, but in this particular situation, it's an entire portion of the building where such a signal wouldn't reach. So I'm wondering, and it sounds like it would, but I just wanted to clarify so I have something to tell them.
Yeah.
With this new system, it sounds like it wouldn't necessarily rely on cell phone signals, but it would be almost hardwired.
Exactly. So it's the point is that we'll have many different ways of communicating with people throughout the buildings. So whether that's by intercom, cell phone, by a computer, by a phone. So there are multiple modes of communicating in order to address that issue that you've raised.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. And keep in mind that, this was not an imminent threat. If this had been an actual active shooter situation, all the buttons would be pushed, so to speak, right? Whatever mechanism we have of notifying, they'd all be used so to reach out as many people as possible.
Hi. I have a couple of questions, so bear with me. I was not here Monday, but I did receive the text out of the school, and I was wondering, I came in the day later, is there any possible way there's going to be a security uppage? Because anybody can come in and out of this school, and it's very hard to distinguish people that have weapons and people that do not have weapons. And I was wondering if there's going to be any sort of security uppage, or maybe like a security at the door, or just at all times maybe watching.
In addition to the new communication system, because communications, as we're all talking about now, is very important. So in addition to the robust communication system that we just installed, we also have a very extensive camera system coming behind you due to a situation today is our new kiosk, which is right at our main entrance. During the incident Monday, that was staffed. However, we think that for the few minutes that the individual came in, the officer was off doing something on a break. He actually wasn't in the booth at that time. But so that effort there is to have somebody by the main entrance as often as possible. It is a campus. It has to be open. I think with the security systems we're putting in place, our great cooperation with our local police department, our addition of defensive mechanisms that our officers are carrying now, I think we're making great headway. But I don't know if that completely answers your question. But.
Another thing about the safe rooms, I know there's different sections in the school. For something like that, in our case, like an active shooter, wouldn't it be more safe to remain in the rooms instead of risking our lives traveling through the hallways? Because you never know where they could be, hiding in the staircases, hiding in the elevator, or even just hiding in a room where you're walking by and then they jump out. And for situations like that, I feel like there should be no, like, not saying no safe rooms, but I feel like it would be safer to maintain in the classroom with the locked doors and something like that. I don't know your opinion on that. I feel like instead of people traveling through the hallways, risking their lives, you never know where they're going to come out, and I wondered if there's any like improvement on that.
Well, to your point, these incidents, by the way, which it seems like they happen all the time, they're still extremely rare. I mean, we see on the news it happens, it's tragic when it happens, but they are still extremely rare. We need to be prepared for them. One of the ways to do that is to have situational awareness. So during the incident Monday, some people said, yeah, I got the alert. I was on my way to campus. I called in. I'm not coming until it's all clear. Perfect, right? If you're in a secure room or a room that you can secure, you might want to stay there. Where's the threat? Okay, so if we're communicating, if we know where a person is the person on the first floor, the sixth floor? If you're 5 floors away and you're in a secure area, stay in the secure area. Keep in mind, please, everybody, in the event of an actual active shooter situation, there is going to be more law enforcement on site here than at an FOP convention. And I'm not saying that to be flip. There's just going to be 150 law enforcement officers here, and some of the finest SWAT teams in the state. I think you saw Monday the reaction. We have a great working relationship with all our local law enforcement. Warwick was very good to us Monday as far as their response. But your situational awareness about where you are is key. You have to act on that. If you're in a hall, if you're in the Great Hall here, and if it was an active shooter situation, you might want to get into one of the local offices. If you're near an exit, it's perfectly acceptable to exit to your car. There are so many variables and so many, so many people in so many places. You have to kind of take a second, analyze, and I'm glad you asked the question because you're thinking along those lines, right? What am I going to do? It depends on where you are, what your circumstances are. So.
Okay, last question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Since we're on the topic of communication, I just found out today that a professor got the email about the incident, and I never got an email about just information about it. And I feel like students should know the situation, that way they can prepare themselves. Is there any way we can have an alert for everybody, that way they can understand the situations and how we can mentally, physically prepare ourselves if for some reason we needed, my grandma does not let me go out the house without pepper spray because I'm always here. So
I'm not sure I'm understanding. You didn't get the rave?
So no, I got the text rave, but
Okay.
I didn't get an email notifying me of the actual situation. So I got the rave text and what it consisted of, but the actual information on specific details that I wish I knew, that way I can prepare myself. Is there any way they can maybe do that for students as well? Because I feel like we all should know about
So
that.
you're looking for follow-up communication?
Yes, exactly.
We can absolutely do that. And maybe you couldn't hear because of the microphone, but we did only use text during the incident because to get email out to 20,000 people,
Oh, yeah.
it just takes the system too long. So we'll definitely follow up with an email that will go to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
So actually, in response to the conversation you and I had the other day, I understand that the police were here within 3 minutes, and you were all up on the 6th floor, basically trying to clear as it was. But there were still people, from what I was told, I was in a room, I didn't move, so I can't be 100% on this. But there were people still walking the halls, and eventually, at one point, they were saying that they were trying to clear the 6th floor. Doesn't that go against what it is that you're trying to do here, which is shelter in place? So if people were being told to go to a different floor, and you don't know exactly where this person is, isn't it possible that if you know they're not on the 6th floor, shouldn't you try to shuttle people into every room up there possible, rather than move them to different floors? And then the other thing too is I was in the unfiltered lens. I didn't move, none of us moved, but there were still people in the student union doing whatever, just sitting there. I don't know whether they knew what was going on or if they didn't care, but they were just doing whatever, and nothing was done to have at least somebody from security at least go from floor to floor just to try to clear people out of the hallways and all the public areas, because I think also there were people still sitting here in the Great Hall during this issue.
There were, and I don't want to confuse two things here, okay? The incident Monday was not an active shooter incident. It was not an imminent threat. The police came because our analysis of the conversation with the person that reported things, we determined it was no imminent threat. However, out of an abundance of caution, we wanted the armed police here, the Warwick police here. We wanted them to go through the building until we determine, again, and what I started out my conversation, said life safety is number one, right? So we're always going to defer to saving lives. I think you're talking that if this was an active shooter, why aren't we going around making sure everyone's... Again, we're going to talk about shelter in place or lockdown, right? If it was an active shooter, we want lockdown. We want everyone in as secure place as possible, not in the Great Hall, not in the hallways. So I get what you're saying. The concern that day was to make sure that there was absolutely no threat to the campus. We didn't believe that there was an imminent threat, and we confirmed that eventually, but we wanted to have the police on scene. Now, our peak was not there. You're talking about if it was an active shooter. Yeah, it would have been a whole different story, and we would have made sure that people were not. By the way, that day we had the fortune of having 5 fully uniformed armed Central Falls police officers in the Great Hall here. So,
I will say this, though, not to cut you off, but The 6th floor is one of the most vulnerable places, and the police were here within 3 minutes. You were already on campus, and you went to the most vulnerable place almost instantaneously. And I will say thank you for that you did what you had to do in the moment. I won't question you on that at all, but having not known the full story, I was just curious why you weren't going from floor to floor just trying to get people out of the most public places.
We were going from floor to floor, and we were talking to people about suggesting that they get into a classroom. Was it as robust as if it was a lockdown situation? Absolutely not. But we accomplished what we wanted to do as a law enforcement operation. And again, life safety, number one, we got that. And I appreciate your thoughts there, because we understand the vulnerabilities within the building, right? And we had that covered. We got that. We understand we're talking about some communication issues, and I think I just don't want you to confuse the two issues.
Okay, like I said,
Active
I
shooter,
don't
whole
wanna say
different
no
story.
100%,
Yeah.
but I was just curious, now that you've clarified it, now that makes sense to me.
Yep.
The only thing is what you said earlier, now with that new kiosk, you said there was one person in there, and they went off to do whatever it is they had to do. Are you gonna make it now where there's 2 people in there, and it has to be one person in there at all times? If somebody has to go to the bathroom, or whatever it is, somebody has to be in that office before that person can go to the bathroom. That way there's always coverage.
With the staffing we have, we certainly will try that, but that's not, I don't want to set you up for an unrealistic expectation
Okay.
there. I do have a limited staffing. I'm not, we're near where we need to be. We need to be, sorry, but you can never have enough during an emergency, right?
No,
That's why we rely on Warwick. In Providence, we rely on Providence. I mean, nobody has enough people during a big emergency. So, but we got it covered Monday. We really did. And my thanks to the Warwick Police as well. They were handling the Patriot send-off at the same time. But we got great response from them. Supervisors, K-9 team. I think that went very well.
And then I had one more point, but that's already been mentioned as far as like the hard phones go, because I know Lex mentioned it and things like that. Because somebody went and told me that they were on, I forget what floor they were on, over by where all the nursing classrooms are. She ran out of the hallway, ran into the classroom. The professor's like, "What are you doing?" And she went and told her, and because she had no clue what was going on. So next thing you know, they went into lockdown and stuff like that. So the issue is like we were saying, teachers aren't checking their phones. So as long as there's a way to get these professors, while they're in the middle of class, to get this information out to them, so that way when people start running into their classrooms just to find a place to hide, they're not taken off balance either, because there's also the students in their classrooms that need to do the same thing as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's something that we really want this new system to solve for, because we know professors aren't looking at their phones while they're teaching. They don't want their students looking at their phones while they're teaching, and so we need to address that to make sure that the communication is all through the building.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, I initially had 2 points. I think Steve covered my first point. The second point is this. I had several students approach me after the incident about overheard conversations with some of the campus police. A lot of them say, and this is the quote that I've heard from several students saying this, that I don't know what's the big deal. It's probably just an undercover cop. I don't think that's something that's really should be appropriate to be speaking out in the public, because especially when tensions are high, because this is the first time something like this has happened on campus. I think that really needs to be addressed right away, and I was wondering maybe if you have any suggestions on how to address that.
I'll be glad to talk to you offline about that, Charles.
Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, I'm not happy to hear that, but
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of students are scared. I mean, like, you have the faculty where it's just equally fearful, because shelter in place is very vague, and I'm glad that you're going ahead and getting more specifics on that, because shelter in place could mean, like you said, a chemical spill to an active shooter. Who knows what that actually meant, especially saying there's been no communication. Like, I haven't received an email about, or any notification myself personally about Monday. I haven't received any information, not even a text about that. I was here. Luckily, I found a copy room I could dunk into, but like, I hear a lot of students saying about faculty only knew because they had that one student that was on their phone instead of listening to a lesson. So I mean, It's a bit of an issue, but I'm glad that that's being resolved.
I mean, we're always, this job is never done. We're always going to work on increasing technology so we can get to everybody, as many as we can. It's never going to be 100%. We're way more ahead of where we were last year. I appreciate the president's efforts there. And I think this time next year we'll be even further ahead. But that's why we're having these conversations. So
The only thing I would say, and also Charles, twofold. One, Captain Collins is very aware of what he's accountable for, and certainly one of those things is to coach and manage the team, so that the description that you outlined, if it did happen, doesn't happen again. The second is we will roll out a test rave. We will send a clear email communication to all the students at the college with a clear protocol for when the rave goes out, if you don't receive it, take this action. So that going forward, ideally, we've got as close to 100%. If the challenge is, right, we've had a variety of processes at this college over a very long period of time that depend upon whether you're faculty, staff, or a student. We need a single process and get every single person who chooses to be enrolled in that system, so then if we have another day like Monday, that rave is getting to everybody.
So I know we have a line there, but before I forget to make this point, the conversation about shelter in place and lockdown. So after 9/11, there was a massive effort with the federal government to use common language throughout the country, right? So we can change it, but we're using language that Homeland Security uses, right? Those are the two common terms. Shelter in place and lockdown. Other places, if you look around websites, they use those two terms to mean the same thing. But we want to stay as much as possible, and we're open to changing it. We want to stay as much as possible conforming to the Homeland Security vernacular. I think it's important to you have an ICS system, Incident Command System, a National Response Network framework, that we're all using the same terminology. But as long as everyone's educated on it and you know what it means when you get it, I think that's the most important thing. And that's something we need to work on and sustain over time. We have an ever-changing population here, and it has to be a sustained conversation.
So perhaps with the rave alert, definitely maybe put in. Oh, sorry.
I know you have to be like practically eating the microphone.
Yeah. So with the rave alert, I would maybe suggest put a list of the definitions of what each mean, so that way there's
Now
no
we need
question.
you to know the definitions before you get there. Like I said earlier in the
Well, I
conversation.
meant for the test one, that the test rave alert that.
Well, I think what we're going to do in terms of that is use a lot of different ways of educating people on the language. We'll do it in email, we'll do it in video, so because for that exact reason, to make sure that people feel very comfortable with the language, so that the rave alert's kind of like Twitter, it's 140 characters, so that when that comes, people know what the response is. And we'll do it every semester, so if you're new to the college, you're gonna get that information as well.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Charles.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I was wondering what the plan of action would be for future incidences, like on educating the staff, because I was actually here on Monday, and I think I didn't receive the rave alert, the text, because I signed up for that, and I think they did a really terrible job kind of taking care of everything. Like, things were executed really poorly. I was here in the lower commons. I had no idea what to do. I was a sitting duck. Like, there was no communication. There was police here, and I'm thankful nobody got hurt, but it appeared that they just kind of hung out here and
Yeah, one
too
of the big
much.
takeaways out of this is that there was a glitch in signing up, or there was some technical aspect. For some people, most people, no, but there was some issue that IT is working on resolving, and Alix sort of can speak better to that.
I think the second is, talk to your fellow students, talk to the student government. I think it is going to be important to hear from you. What kind of training are you interested in having? So I would very much encourage you to connect with Charles and Lex to see how we can make that happen. And Captain Collins will respond.
Okay, thank you. And another thing too, when would we when would they be updating like the rave system? Should I set that up, put in my phone number again, because I didn't receive the notification?
Okay.
So here's what we think that we know what the solution is. We know what the problem and the solution. We want to make sure the solution's correct before we send everyone to rave again. So please look for communication from us about when that solution's in place. We hope it's going to be very, very soon. And marketing and information technology started working on it right away. So look for communication from us about how to ensure that your cell phone number's in the rave system.
And then we'll follow up with the test.
Yeah.
To test
And
it.
we'll test it.
Okay, thank you. And just one more thing. Just kind of going back to like talking to like the student government and the people on campus. Would I speak with them for, I don't know, training and like set up for these kind of lockdown situations?
You can come right to this man, and if I have a central takeaway so far in this conversation, it's we need to be far more deliberate with engaging students and responding to what you're asking for.
So I am very happy to go to departments, if department heads out there, student groups, if you want to set something up, I'd rather do it as a group, so large numbers of people. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100, but certainly not a one-on-one. If I can go to a department or some type of student group with Tim or I or one of my staff, I'd be more than happy to do that and
So at
talk
the
through
end,
it.
come see us. We'll make some appointments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Great.
Yep, stay close to that.
I'm going to stand on my tippy toes here. So I assume that you can imagine I have multiple questions for you, but I've narrowed it down to just two.
Great. Pull it down.
Still not doing it. Is this better?
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry. So my first question, first comes with a small explanation. I've been here for about 3 years now, and I just asked two ladies at the same table I was sitting at. I didn't ask how many years, but I assume for multiple. Within the 3 years I've been here, not once have I ever gone through something as minimal as a fire drill, let alone a lockdown drill, a stay-in-place drill. So my question is, why do we not do them? And if we have do them, please correct me if I'm wrong, but why are there so few? And to further push my point also about talking about these things, if everyone who can answer this question in the room raise their hand, please. How many of you know where your closest emergency exit is? How many of you know where the closest fire alarm is? So it proves that the information seems to be a bit scattered. So that's my first question.
Yeah, I've been here a year and a half, and the president's been here a little bit longer. Obviously, both of us in our different professions have, upon getting here, looked at the systems and processes, and I determined in my area that there needed to be some improvements, and I think we listed a long list of them and embarked on them. This is purchasing equipment, training, all sorts of stuff. We can't accomplish this all overnight. I'm with you. We need more of these drills. We're going to do them. We were in the process of this. Monday happened. It's not like we're just talking about this because Monday happened. That's not the case. We've been working on this emergency response framework, training for senior administration, training for staff, and there's more to come. Like I said, this is a never-ending job trying to stay on top of this stuff. So we've had a lot in the pipeline. We've gone over the list with you. I mean, it's when we were talking for this event, I'm looking back and I'm saying, that's a lot of accomplishments over the last year. And we're not there yet. We got a lot more to do, and we're committed to testing the system and improving the system as best as possible. But
So we can expect improvement on that.
absolutely, yeah, we've been improving
Perfect.
since day one, in my
Great.
opinion.
So my next question is, with this event happening, does this bring back the question of arming campus police to the table?
So, again, since I have been here, we've made some dramatic improvements, right? It takes time to do things like everyone now is carrying pepper spray, right? Less lethal, fantastic defense mechanism. Helps us defend ourselves, helps us defend you. The time involved in just getting there has been a commitment. Getting the equipment, getting the training, it's not something you can just roll out and pass that equipment out. Tim and I have also become instructors for the ASP baton, and that training's in the process of the next month or two. We have to get everyone trained. It's extensive training for that. It's not something, again, you can accomplish overnight. So I think where we're at now with our less lethal and cooperation with our local police departments, I think we're in a substantially better position than we were last year.
Okay. So if it's just a single word answer, would that be a yes or a no? Does that topic come back to the table?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. We're always going to look at where the college is, where the state of Rhode Island is, where our local police forces are. So yes, it's a dynamic issue, and no, we have no intention at this point to arm our campus police.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I'm a little short. So, my question is, I know we already talked about students are able to come and ask security about training for situations like these. Is it possible for students to make this mandatory for students, like such as during new student orientation? Since school shootings are on the rise here in America, this is something that students really should be prepared for.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and we are looking at, again, a million ways to roll out the training. Student orientation be a great one. We're planning on making that more robust on the next iteration. But we've had, again, a lot in the works here. But that training is absolutely crucial. I agree with you, and it's got to be ongoing.
I think it's a great recommendation, and I'm looking at student services. We'll take it back to them and look at what we need to do even more of at orientation. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more question. Is it also possible for us to get some sort of alert? When I was in high school, I had run hide fight training, and we used something along the lines of, "Miss Jane, please come to the main office." Is it possible for us to get something like that here in the building? So maybe that's...
I didn't
less
hear
of
the
a-
second part of it. What was the...
Sorry, is it possible for us to use some sort of alert, like, "Miss Jane, please come to the main office"?
Like a code word that something's going
Yeah,
on? or
code
something?
word. Like,
I think we'd rather just communicate. In an emergency situation, I've been doing this for 35 years, the bigger the emergency, the simpler you want to keep things. And I understand what you're talking about, but those code words are designed more for hospitals and grammar schools and things of that nature, to my understanding. But you don't want to panic. You have stay-in-place population you can't possibly move, and the last thing you want to do is panic those people. But the number one rule, and there's a couple of emergency management guys in the thing here that'll agree with me, affirm this, that you want to keep it simple, clear, concise, simple communication.
Yeah, the only addition I would make is Captain Collins earlier talked about with Incident Command, there is a protocol, right, that has come out of FEMA, and it is about standardizing language. So and the clear recommendation within the post-secondary environment within colleges is that you rely on that language. And that's because the Incident Command, the people that are leading the response, need to know what to do, and the language will direct them to do that.
perfect. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks for the question.
Good morning.
Morning.
So one more observation about the rave alert. I had a faculty member who was in his office throughout the entire situation, did not receive the first alert, received the second one, and did not receive the third one. So in addition to those, who are signed up not getting them, there seems
Right.
to be an intermittent problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I spoke to students in my class yesterday about their experiences, and they raised a couple of points. The shelter-in-place warning suggested that they somehow barricade themselves in the classroom. But of course, the doors, our new electronic doors, don't allow individuals to lock them, right? So they can't lock the door. So they decided, okay, we're going to push the desk against the door, and then realize the door opens outward. So there was no way to protect themselves in the classroom. And then on top of all of that, of course, we have great walls of glass. So in this after-action planning, perhaps some thought could be given to how can we deal with great walls of glass?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to let Captain Collins respond, but I think it is important to clarify two following things. If it had been an active shooter or an active threat, we would have gone into lockdown. Those doors would have been locked. That's the first observation. And then the second is with the glass. So here we are with this building.
Yes.
With the 6th floor, the very first place our Warwick police went was to the 6th floor. And then I'll just turn it over to Captain Collins to.
Yeah, in the event of an active shooter situation, I really encourage everyone. The young lady that was just up there mentioned that she was trained in run, hide, fight. It's on our website. I really would, if one takeaway from this is everyone watch the 6-minute video, Run, Hide, Fight. It tells you how to analyze where you are. We talked about this earlier but with another question. Where you are, there's no reason for you to stay in an indefensible space if you determine it's indefensible, right? So now Monday was not one of those things. If we wanted you to stay shelter in place. We had police on the scene immediately. In an active shooter scenario, if you determine, and you can determine this ahead of time, certainly, you say, this is not where I want to be. Unless you immediately get trapped, if the bad guy happens to be in your hallway, then you have to do what you have to do. And again, watch Run, Hide, Fight. That's when you would barricade and do the best you can. But if you have the opportunity to move to a more secure area, do that. Absolutely. You're not, nobody's saying that, you have the right of self-preservation, right? So while the police are responding, you can take action. And one of those actions, we encourage you to, remember I mentioned earlier, situational awareness. Be aware of your situation, be aware of your surroundings, and certainly if you have the opportunity, the recommendation from the federal guidelines all the way down to local police is find a defensible space if you can.
I would be hard-pressed to determine a safer place on the 6th floor than the classrooms. And I do recognize that replacing glass windows is unrealistic, but perhaps some paper, curtains, something that obscures that view.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Sure.
Leslie.
Hello. I was in the library. I was in the library when this was happening, and I was in the Student Success Center, and I was in that small area downstairs in the back, and I got the message saying that there was a shooter, stay alert, be calm, and there was a back door near the Student Success Center, and people were still walking in and out like nothing was going on. So it got to me a question, is there really something happening or there isn't? So after the incident, they said everything's cleared up, you can go out, you're on your business. I went to the gymnasium, and I spoke with one of the athletic directors, one that's in charge, and he said they weren't aware that there was a shooter going on or an incident going on at all. So he said there was 30 students in the gym playing basketball, and he had nowhere, well, in case something happened, nowhere to put them, and the door to the tunnel, he couldn't lock it in case if the person was coming by. And then I was thinking, that sliding door downstairs on the hill, that's always open. So say if I was that person, I could just easily park on the side over there, walk into the gym, and then do it. Not saying I would, but I'm just saying, I'm just thinking if I was that person, that door is open all the time. And there's no one to check them for IDs saying, this is a student that goes here, and it just brought me to attention. I had to speak up about it.
I appreciate it. I just want to clarify, though, that the message never said there was a shooter. The message was very clear that the police were responding, investigating a person that had a holstered weapon. We wanted people to be aware of that. We're required to let you know that there's a potential incident. Again, in our mind, that it certainly wasn't an active shooter situation. So I don't want to talk two different things. So
Right.
in the event of an active shooter situation, it would have been a totally different response. In this situation, again, out of an abundance of caution, we had police in the building and going floor to floor until we could determine for 100% certainty, as best we could, that it was not anything other than what we believe it turned out to be. So two different things. Let's not confuse the two. But I appreciate your concerns. I think
Yes.
you would have seen things, and the people in the gymnasium would have seen things differently had it been an actual active shooter.
Yep, no problem.
Morning. I have several comments on the library. It took multiple phone calls.
Can't hear you.
It took multiple phone calls to security before we actually spoke to someone about having the library doors locked. And the
I'm
response-
glad you mentioned that, because one of the things we need to do and communicate with people is, during an emergency, unless you have an emergency, we do not want you to call dispatch. The dispatcher in any size organization is overwhelmed, and we'd like to limit that to an emergency only. So what we're looking for during that time period we're evaluating the situation, one of the things we relied on, a time had already gone by, there's been no further calls, but you can't call dispatch
Okay.
and clog the
that
emergency
said-
lines.
That said, with everybody, security in place, whatever, we had over 100 students in the library, not to mention another dozen or so on the Sky Bridge. Okay? Our mission was to try to keep those students safe, but how can we keep them safe if they're free to leave, come and go out of the library with the door unlocked? I had 3 librarians, and this might sound melodramatic, but they put themselves in harm's way blocking a double glass door to prevent people from leaving and keeping unknown people from coming in the library. And I think that's a serious concern.
Yeah, I hear you. So here's the difference between you as a faculty or staff member and your responsibility towards others at the college level versus at a grade school level. And it's an important distinction to make, and faculty sometimes have a hard time understanding that. You really can't keep somebody from leaving, right? You can suggest it, you can do your best to offer your advice, you can do your best to keep people as safe as possible, but people...
So in the future, we should let people come and go and put themselves at risk, or let the potential shooter come into the library.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that you can't keep people from going. Again, I want people to understand Monday was not an active shooter. I know that's in everyone's mind. We made it clear. I think one of the texts said this is not an active shooter situation. It was out of an abundance of caution that we had the police respond, because we wanted to be 100% sure that nobody's life is in jeopardy. In an active shooter situation, it would have been totally different. But even then, I understand what you're saying, but people are adults, and if again, you watch the Run, Hide, Fight video, 10 people in a room, 5 people could decide, I'm staying right here. The other 5 want to say, I feel better moving somewhere else. That's a decision individuals can make, and that's the proper decision. You can encourage people to do what you think is best. You cannot, and I understand you have this angst about, I'm responsible for these students, but reality is...
Yeah, if I might, just 2 things. If it certainly was clear to our police that this was not an active shooter. It is very clear to me that it was not clear to the community.
Clear.
So I hear it loud and clear. And I think a couple of things. No one would have asked for Monday to have happened, but it did happen, and the learning that has come out of it, right? That if you're sitting in this room right now, we now understand, all of us, there is a difference. When that rave comes out and it says shelter in place, by definition, that means there is no active shooter in this building. That's the first part, right? So the difference in language matters. And the second part is, had there been an active shooter or an active threat, set aside an active threat, those doors would have been locked. No one would have been able to get in or out. It certainly doesn't solve for the facilities and the glass. And I take that point, and we got to figure out what is within our means to do to try to mitigate that risk.
And the last sort of ancillary comment is that we have 6 emergency exits in between College Success and in the library. 2 on the 3rd, 2 on the 4th floor, 2 on the 5th floor. Not all of those doors are locked from the outside, so it's possible for someone to come in from the emergency exit, and none of the alarms are active, so anyone can leave any of those areas, and there'll be no notification.
Yeah, we're very familiar with the issues with the doors in the library. I think we've been working on it with the vendor, And as far as the alarms, we know what the situation is with that.
Well,
And
they
until
were
the doors
working,
are-
they were turned off.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Ken and I will connect about that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
What time is it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Most of my questions have been answered since I've been standing here, but I just want you to know that I took it personally extremely different than what you would have taken it as a police officer who knows how to handle this. I'm not only an employee, but I have a son that is a student here. Had no idea what was going on, took it to the extreme. My question is, now that we know that the doors don't all lock and that we've spent quite a lot of money on having the keyless entries, has that been completed with all the doors in the college, in this campus?
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to know if all the doors in this campus all are now coded with that keyless entry.
So I would say most of them. I mean, we're about
Okay.
so Ken's saying 95% of them.
All right. Will we ever get to the point that everybody will have to use your card to get in access to that door, whether you be a student, a faculty, or an employee?
Well, we have different permissions for different doors.
Correct, but you
right.
would still have to use,
Correct.
it wouldn't be open access to everybody.
No.
It would be that you would use your card to gain access to that, depending on what kind of code you have.
Yes, and the only people that would have the card are faculty, students, or
And how
staff.
close are we to getting to that point?
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Is the idea that not everyone has a card?
No.
Oh,
What
sorry.
I'm saying is access to the doors is an open access to most of the doors. They don't lock, they don't close. Anybody can come in, come out, except for certain areas of the college. So that was a problem with, on Monday, what happened. A lot of the doors didn't lock because to them it wasn't a lockdown.
Right.
To us, it seemed it was an issue because the doors were easily accessed to anybody who wanted to come in. So in my case, it was an open area, so I had to find a different area to go into. So my question is if we have our nice little IDs and we have now the nice doors, are we going to get to the point that everybody's going to have to use an ID to get into a door?
I guess the way I would think about that is we're always going to have to balance access for people throughout the building with that security, and it may mean that we need to look at that more because when I think about it, because we also have concerns about accessibility. So if in terms of access, so the key cards are kind of difficult if you have some kind of a disability that makes it hard for you to kind of bend over. So we're trying to balance that, and I appreciate your point because there may be times that we need to reevaluate that. But the door system is something that we're continually working to improve upon for everybody, and so thank you for that feedback.
Okay. And just another point is I just want to make sure, not so much myself, because I always feel as a parent, I'm not going to worry about me, I'm going to worry about my child. I just want to make sure that faculty know what to do in any situation, that as I'm sitting or standing in that little 2x4 bathroom, locked down, thinking that I can think that that professor has got my child's best interest, or actually I know that they probably do, but they know what to do.
And we want your child to know what to do and not rely entirely on the professor.
I want to know
Right.
that I can at least have a sense of relax, we're okay. Okay? So just to make sure that every department knows exactly where to go, what to do in every situation. That's all I want. If anything comes out of that, just to know that, even department heads have one person to say, okay, guys, this is what we do, because it was a mess. That's all.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. We're just at 10.
I don't have a question. All my questions have been answered already. Just have a concern. Like the other student brought out, it may be mandatory for everybody to get some sort of training. For us as a staff and faculty, our professional development day is coming, and instead of making it optional to choose a workshop, I think it should be mandatory for all of us. It was a scary situation, of course. The not knowing is scary for everybody. It's just concerning that we found a nice place, a safe place to stay. But some students were, after the staff find out what's going on, students were dismissed from their classes. And I understand we are not in high school and elementary school where you can tell the kids, you stay right there and don't move. We are all adults here. You cannot tell the students, stay here, don't move. You cannot command them to do something. They are all adults, and they are free to do whatever they want. The only concern is, once they find out what's going on, students were dismissed from their classes instead of giving them an option. This is what we could do. Stay here, turn off the lights, be quiet, turn off your cell phones off, do something, rather than say, nothing's going on, go on with your lives. Thankfully, it was nothing seriously, but it is a concern. What if something had been serious and these students were dismissed and go to your thing, you know? So that's kind of scary. So I second what the other student says. Maybe the training should not be just for students, for all of us, and on a mandatory basis. So I think personally that the Professional Development Day is a great opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback, and thank you, everyone. Anyone who has questions that didn't get addressed, I'd encourage you to come speak with us now, and please keep the feedback coming. You will receive communication out of Captain Collins's office and out of Marketing and Communications about the rave, the steps we've taken, and then the rollout of the testing. Thank you all.